Hazy Radio Network. The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual hosts and their guests do not necessarily reflect those of Hazy Radio Network, its affiliates, or sponsors. All shows are independently owned and broadcast for entertainment purposes only.
Hello, and welcome to Periscope Uncensored. It's Friday night. It's May 2nd. Clarissa is out tonight. She's got some stuff going on, so she asked me to fill in for her. So, my name is Doug Engler, and joining me tonight is the wonderful, as always, Mr. Carl Ways.
Oh, hi, everybody. Thanks, Doug.
So how are you tonight, Carl?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Doing pretty good. We want to thank everybody for tuning in to Periscope Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network. Our guest tonight is author a-k-kuykendall. You can check him out at www-thewriterofbooks.com. And we look forward to chatting with him tonight about, I think he's got some new books coming out. Plus he's got a couple of great books out already, including the Writer's Block trilogy, The Possession, and also Conspirator's Odyssey. Yeah.
And he also has a book soon to be released called The Origins.
So we're looking forward to chatting with him tonight. He will be joining us at the bottom of the hour. As of right now, it's just you got me and Carl chatting. For those of you who don't know, Carl has a paranormal team that he has just formed recently that I have become an honored member of.
Good to have you aboard, Doug. Thank you for teaming up with us.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. We're going to be kind of a little bit of an off-the-wall style. We're not just ghost hunters in this team. We want to cover all paranormal because it seems like thanks to the modern day of technology with television shows and everything, everybody wants to run out and hunt ghosts. But we're going to look into it as we want to research all aspects of the paranormal, including ufology, cryptozoology. You know, you got a Bigfoot sighting, you want us to try to find the Loch Ness Monster in the Bridgewater Triangle, we'll try to find it. We'll even try to hunt down some of those puckwudgies. We'll send them to Scott.
Yes, we will.
So what made you decide to get back in? I know you've been involved in the field for a while. You had a couple of groups that you were a member of before, and you had gotten out for a while. What, you just get the itch to get back into it again, or?
I took a couple years off just to clear my mind. I was involved with a few teams, and I started a few teams of my own, and things didn't go the way I wanted them to. So I took a few years off just to clear ways, and when Clarissa came to Rhode Island, one of my best friends, who is the co-founder of the group with me, my friend John Gomes, she wound up talking to him, and one thing led to another, and him and I started talking, and this is going to be our last hurrah. It's either way, if it goes good or if it goes bad, we're going to give it one last shot, and I'm glad you're a part of the team, Doug. Good to have you aboard.
I am very honored to be a part of the team. Looking forward to, I know you said that you're hoping to have some big things in store for the group, and hopefully we'll have many years of successful investigations of all types, and I'm excited to learn and have the experiences with you guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And if it's anything like the meeting was earlier this week, we're in for trouble.
It's an understatement. Yeah, but my thing is, it's one thing, you have to be serious when you're doing it, but you also have to have fun, because if you're not having fun, to me, it's not really worth it. It's what you make of it.
Oh, yeah. And I know we're hoping eventually we're not one of those teams that's funded by network TV, so we don't have all the fancy equipment and stuff. But we hope in the future to be able to get one of those thermal cams. When that happens, I'll have to remember not to stand in front of it.
Nice.
No filming me with the thermal cam. I've already seen what flatulence looks like on a thermal.
I did not need to hear that.
Yeah, but anybody who knows me already knows that they pick on me about that anyway, so.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I've heard.
But it's all good. It's all part of the fun.
Yes. That's the thing. You gotta have fun doing it.
Oh, yeah. And I think by Sunday people are going to get sick of hearing me on the radio. Just because of doing the triple duty this week.
It all depends. You might be doing triple duty next week, too.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
But next week's show is going to be fantastic. It might be as good as tonight's show, if not a little better, because we had to pre-record it, but Clarissa and I sat down and had a nice little interview with Rob Demarest from GHI. And
I'm wicked jealous right now.
He was fantastic. We were able to set that up back before you became part of the team, and
I knew she was doing it though, her and I, because she knows I'm a big fan of his, and she told me about it. I was like, I'm wicked jealous.
It just so happened it fell on one of my days off, so I was able to get in on the conversation with her, and
that's awesome.
It's going to be a great show next week, so tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your grandparents. They might even enjoy it. Also, if people hear me on Sunday night on Animazing Radio, we'll be on from 8 to 10. Our guest this week is illustrator and artist Sean Doonan. And we're going to be talking to him about some of his artwork, where he gets the ideas from, and some of his creative craziness. Checked out some of his stuff earlier this week. You can find Sean Doonan Art on Facebook, and he's got a lot of the artwork up on his Facebook page. It's phenomenal stuff. So we're looking forward to chatting with him. Got some big stuff coming up in the future for Animazing Radio, as well as Crossing the Void Radio. We've got great guests lined up all through the summer. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned to all the shows here on the Hazy Radio Network. We're going all out this year. We want to try to make this the best year of Hazy Radio yet.
It's going to be one fun year.
Oh, yeah. And, of course, us here at the Pukwudgie Media Team, you never know what we're going to throw out. There's even been rumors running around of Doogie Stardust trying to make a return. So
that's a scary thought.
That is a scary thought. Lock up the glitter cannons, and who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah.
Looks like Scott's already getting a phone call.
Oh, this is interesting.
Never a dull moment.
No, it isn't. But you know what? We enjoy this. This is part of the fun. This is what we love about live radio. And throw shout-outs to everybody in the chat. We want to welcome Miss Z back.
Yep, say nice things, people. Don't get her upset.
That's right, yeah. And no more of the nonsense on Facebook to her, because she will block you. She'll block you harder than Tuukka Rask in a hockey game.
Don't get me started.
Yeah, I know. I stayed up to watch it. I was hoping to get to bed early last night. But
did. With how I felt the past week, I was in bed well before that game ended.
Not me. I stopped watching it when it was 2-0 Montreal. I turned it back on after watching some anime and some other, flips to the Red Sox. Oh, the Red Sox are up 5-2. Flip to this. I watched some anime. Finished up watching because new series, Stayed Alive, has just released their first 2 English-dubbed episodes, so I wanted to check that out for Animazing Radio purposes. We have a couple of the voice actors from that show who are going to be upcoming guests, so I wanted to get some background info on them, and flip back over, and they're in overtime, and it's 3-3. I said, oh, cool. Looks like the Bruins have a good shot at winning this. And then they miss an open net, and then another open net, and then Marchand blocks a shot, and unfortunately was going into the other team's goal. They called that the save of the night. I just put my head down and said, we're in trouble. But
it's one game. No big deal.
Yeah, we lost game 1 to Detroit as well and came back to win the next 4. So.
Yeah, I'm just depressed because the one team, I'm hoping the Bruins make it. I'm not one that's going to say yes, they are, but the one team I wanted them to play if they made it to the final was out. So.
Yeah, I went on the air on the record last week as to who I thought the finals was going to be, and one of the teams is already out. So. Yep.
The one team I wanted them to play is out. So.
But
and it's probably the team you were rooting for.
Colorado.
Yep, that's who I wanted in the final, but...
Last week on Animazing Radio, we talked to Eric Vale, who's a voice actor out of Dallas, and found out that he does some of the voice work and some of the announcing and stuff for the Dallas Stars.
That's awesome. At
the time, Dallas was leading their game by 2 goals. I later found out the next morning that they lost. Anaheim came back and knocked them out of the playoffs. Hopefully Eric does not hate me for that. It's looking at them as the kiss of death, but.
Unless you play the sport, a lot of people just judge it by watching. I mean, I've done both. I played for 30 some odd years, and it's one thing to criticize, but it's one thing to know how the game's played, and then criticize is 2 totally different things. And one game is one game. I mean.
Oh yeah.
Actually, you look at the Red Sox. They were down 3-0 against the Yankees and won 4 straight.
Oh, that was beautiful too.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. Speaking of being up 3-0 and then losing 4 straight, how about what happened to the Sharks? San Jose was up 3-0 on the LA Kings, and the Kings are in the second round. Mm-hmm. Congratulations to them, because LA is the team.
San Jose got hot and then they slowed down, and the worst part for them is for LA they have a huge goaltender in Jonathan Quick, and he got hot pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
And he needed to, because he was having a pretty harsh playoff.
So congratulations to them. Mm-hmm. But here we are, a couple of paranormal guys. We're talking sports. Welcome to Periscope Uncensored. Mm. That must be where the uncensored comes in. Yeah. We're not dropping F-bombs or anything like that. We're
keeping it clean.
Talk about all sorts of weird stuff. But speaking of paranormal, I got an investigation tomorrow night. Unfortunately, it's not with you guys. It's with another group that I met a few months ago, and we're doing a 3-hour investigation at Slater Mill.
That's right. That's the one you were telling me about. Good luck with that. Hope let me know how you guys make out.
I will, and we'll have to get in touch with Carl over there, Carl Johnson, and see about getting us in there.
That'd be great, because I've never been, so.
It's a great location. First time I was there, felt some activity. Last time I was there, not so much. When we were there in March, it just seemed like there was such a big group, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff going on, whether it be because there was so much people going on, it was kind of chaotic, Plus, time had changed. It had been about 2 to 3 years difference between the first visit to the second visit, so we still don't understand fully what makes them cook or what makes them tick, why spirits can interact at some points and not at all times, but that's why we do it. We want to know who, what, where, when, why, and how, and eventually, someday, maybe we'll have all the answers, but I don't know if we'll see that in our lifetime.
Probably not.
And Scott's throwing jokes to us up in the Skype chat. The Freudian slip, I said cook instead of something else, and he's like, what's it, the Food Network now?
Scott.
But, we all love Scott Hare and want to thank him for the awesome job that he does producing all the shows.
Because right now, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be on the air.
Exactly. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be Periscope Uncensored being broadcast right now. There wouldn't be Animazing Radio on Sundays. And, of course, Crossing the Void's a fantastic show that he thought of and got going about 1.5 years ago. And So congratulations to him on the success. I know he throws the success out to the whole team, but if he didn't have the idea of I want to do this, none of us would be sitting here right now. So thank you very much, Scott. We love you for...
Would you stop? Sheesh.
Hey, he spoke.
Uh-oh.
He's in trouble.
I got the off button.
Well, gotta throw the shout out to the man behind everything. But, we're having fun tonight, and we are getting ready to go to the bottom of the hour break here on Periscope Uncensored. So when we come back, we're going to be joined with Mr. a-k-kuykendall and chatting about who knows what. Sure, it's books and many other things. So you're listening to Periscope Uncensored on the Hazy Radio Network. It's 32 minutes after the hour, and you're listening to Periscope Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network. I'm your host, Doug Engler, filling in for Miss Clarissa. She is out tonight. Had some stuff come up, so she wasn't able to be here. Joining me, as always, is the awesome co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Carl Ways. Welcome back, Carl.
All right, everybody. Thank you.
And joining us on the line now is a fantastic author. Got some great books out there that you should check out, including Writer's Block Trilogy, The Possession, and also Conspirator's Odyssey, The Evolution of the Patron Saint. We have on the line with us Mr. a-k-kuykendall.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me again.
Oh, thanks for coming back and joining us.
Yes, thanks for coming back.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
And our loyal listeners know recently you appeared on Crossing the Void Radio with Scott Hare and myself, and so it was great chatting with you then. Glad you could come back. And we know you're feeling a little under the weather, so we wish you to get better soon. And something's going around. Everybody's getting sick.
Oh, my goodness. As long as my fingers don't stop or get, carpal tunnel, that's the only danger I think about.
It's very true for a writer.
I can still write if I can't breathe. If I can't talk, I can still write.
That's very true. And you were telling us during the break that you were getting ready to have a second book coming out for the Conspirator's Odyssey series.
Oh yeah, it's entitled Origins. If you and your audience take a trip out to my website www-thewriterofbooks.com, you can click on the synopsis Origins tab, and it will give you a detailed overview of what the book's about. It's pretty good, and it deals with it takes the journey all the way back to 1917 when the Red Baron shot down a UFO. True
awesome.
And it kind of connects the dots between two imminent alien invasions of 1942 and 1952. And I'm sure you guys, if you'll know about the infamous UFO merry-go-round in Washington, D.C. in 1952. During World War II, there was an object that it was the Battle of Los Angeles. Y'all remember? Anybody remember that?
I don't remember it off the top of my head, but
And you'll definitely be blown away at the synopsis because I put real-time links, video links to it of news broadcasts about the Battle of Los Angeles in 1942. There was an object air that actually flew over Los Angeles with a number of ships and anti-aircraft artillery rounds for over an hour and a half was shot at this thing over the city of Los Angeles. No matter what was going on, and people died on the ground. But they were trying to take this thing out of the sky, and they could not put a dent in it. We don't know.
I did remember hearing about that.
We don't know what it was, but I've done my research, and I put the piece of the puzzle together. It deals with Roosevelt. It deals with Eisenhower, and it's all connected to the same way that from the first book when it talks about Kennedy's assassination and why he died. not the who, what, when, where, and how, and all that crap. I'm talking about the why behind it. It was basically what's called excuse me, I'm kind of phlegmy because I'm very under the weather. But Truman actually set in motion the military-industrial complex, and he fortified it tenfold during his time in office. And there was a reason why he did that. And in my work, the Conspirators Odyssey series, I actually put the pieces of the puzzle together. So if you take a chance, if you and your audience take a look at the website, you'll see the connections that I make.
Awesome. Now, what got you interested in looking into this topic? You know, so many people write about the JFK from all different angles and some of the other things that you write about, but you come at it from a different angle. You look at it from, okay, let's connect the dots here, let's do the research, and you do a little bit more extensive research than I think most people do when they write books on this subject.
Yes, well, I explore and I explore some of the deeper elements of it, some of the deeper elements of history, because in history I consider it to be a convoluted mashup that our system, or what I call our matrix, puts together in order for us to see it piecemeal, and no one ever sees it in chronological order. I take a series that goes from 1917, goes through 1939, 1942, 1952, on up to John F. Kennedy's assassination, connecting the presidents that had something to do with these clandestine operations that eventually led to Kennedy's assassination, eventually led to the first of two imminent alien invasions that actually took place, 1942 and 1952. I put the pieces of the puzzle together, whereas so many people don't put the pieces of the puzzle together because they don't want to, or they're systematically conditioned not to. The same thing that has to do with this military operation, or this weapon known as PSYOP. Have we ever heard of that weapon?
I've heard the term before.
Yes, PSYOP is a very powerful weapon. It's meant to sway the masses by way of radio, television, any show that you're watching, broadcast that you're watching, even personalities on television. They are a part of that weapon. They don't know they are, but they are. We get brainwashed without knowing we're being brainwashed. It's the same thing as being controlled, this whole MK Ultra mind control scenario. We get brainwashed. We don't know we're being brainwashed, but we are, on how to react, act, treat, and even to the point where sometimes it goes wrong and individuals flip out and shoot up kids in school and then kill themselves. Flip out and jump into a police station and start killing everybody in the room. Flip out and, kill people in their place of employment. It's not just someone having a psychotic break. 9 times out of 10, it's a deviation in the weapon. It's being used, and it's a kink in the system. Yeah, I look at it similar to the Matrix, even though that's pretty much fiction. Between our world and that film and that theory, I think it has key correlations. If you don't mind me saying that.
Oh, definitely, because I did see the movie in the theater, and I can remember walking out of that movie with a group of friends that I went with, and we looked at each other and said, could this be what's really going on? Are we really just kind of in a Matrix-type deal where we're not really alive, we're just imagining all this stuff? And it definitely made you think, and kind of the Hollywood effect on people, like early generation movies with ghosts and how everybody thought ghosts were these evil things, and aliens were just coming to invade us instead of coming to learn about us and be afraid of everything you don't understand. And
that's part of I call that the weapon at work. That's be afraid. Just like we tolerate holidays like Halloween. Why do we tolerate that crap? Only because I think that we the people tolerate it only because it's one day of the year. You know what I mean? And it's fun. Halloween is my favorite holiday, to be honest with you. But But we only tolerate it because it's only one day of the year. Now, if that was going on every day of the year, good and well we'd be tired of it by now.
Oh, yeah. I know people are tired of it even on that one day. Because you have the whole month to work up to it.
Oh, yeah. I love the whole atmosphere. Everything about Halloween, ever since I was young, and ever since I've always, when I was a military brat, living in those communities that reminded me of the scene, the neighborhood that you've seen on the hill in the iconic movie E.T. Neighborhood, and the way you got your childhood, your friends come over to your house, and how you go to school and everybody goes trick-or-treating at the same time. You go to school together, things like that. That's the kind of community that I've always lived. Those are the kind of communities that I've always lived in. And always, that feeling of euphoria that I get, it just takes me back. That's why Halloween is such a favorite holiday for me.
Awesome. Carl, you got any questions?
Not at this time. I'm kind of blown away by that. This is getting me to the point where I know I'm going to have to buy his books and start reading because
you don't want to miss number one. I know I approach Conspirators Odyssey from a fact-based fiction perspective. The Conspirators Odyssey series, that is, from a fact-based fiction perspective. But when I market, I only market from a factual perspective. No matter how I always say that no matter how entertaining my story may be, you don't want to ignore the subtle truths that are behind the words. And I said only the true truth seekers will actually read between the lines of what it is I'm trying to convey, whereas the non-truth seekers, at least they'll enjoy a great story. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that's the thing. You gotta look outside the box. You can't just stay focused on straight words.
Yes, sir. I agree.
On the Writer's Block trilogy, The Possession, what got you into the mind frame for writing that one?
Well, my wife is completely enthralled. She is completely over the top by way of religion and her faith, and I love her to death. She keeps me humble. But we have, many different perspectives on how to approach religion, and particularly Christianity. And I studied all religions, but I study all religions, but I don't follow any from a philosopher's standpoint. It just gives me a broader, I just wanted to get a broader understanding of why people think, act, react the way they do. And these meetings that are guiding them whatever they're doing. I don't, let's say, I'm just giving a disclaimer. I don't, harp on anyone's religion versus, down anyone's religion, because basically I understand it from a different perspective. I don't understand it from one that's following. I understand it from a person that's a non-follower. And those are two different things. So when you're having if you need to have a faith-based conversation, if someone is having they cannot have a philosophic conversation with you if they are of the faith. Only people not of the faith, understand the faith, can have that conversation. So basically, that was just a disclaimer, just to roll you into it. Basically, it is about the Christian faith and about my theory of what you call the divine drama. I don't know what your religious faiths are. If you don't mind telling me. If it's Christianity, let me know.
Awesome.
I mean, is it Christianity for your faith, or
I grew up Catholic.
A Catholic, that's.
I wasn't really into much of anything. Recently was baptized Methodist in the last 10 years, but.
Oh yeah, I got my own path as well. But ultimately, the book is a great story. And I still say that my site is the site where truth reads through fiction, because no matter what I'm writing, horror, conspiracy, espionage, it doesn't matter, romance, it's always going to be riddled with truths in it. And I have I'm talking about a very broad theory of what's known as the divine drama between the creation of the world. And one of my theories is, and this has nothing to do with my telling you about any kind of details of the story right now, but my theory on this whole concept is that Lucifer, and just hear me out now, what if God, with his son Lucifer, what if he's just basically trying to teach his son a lesson like any father would do his son, no matter how harsh it was, like Thor's father Odin did to his son Thor when he got outside the box. He had to strip him of all his power and throw him down to earth, remember? The same scenario. What if God just basically is just waiting for Lucifer to repent and ask to come back into the kingdom of heaven? Now, that's just a theory of mine. So if that's the case, we were the second creation to angels. So what if we're just like some insignificant tools on the chessboard for Lucifer to do with as he pleases until he learns his lesson, repents, and asks God's hand to come back to heaven. So that was the overall arc of Writer's Block, The Possession. But basically, I take you on a journey. Gregory Stillingworth is the #1 horror author in the world, and he has a typewriter that he received when he was 14. This typewriter is named the Buford, and this typewriter has a sinister role to play in this whole story. And then he has his wife, Jamie Stillingworth, which has also a sinister role to play in this whole story. But he wrote his first novel, Gregory Stillingworth wrote his first novel when he was 6 years old, a project by the name of Ambivalence. But Ambivalence talked about all types of things that were in the future that Jamie, close to the end of the reads the book again for the first time because that was one of her favorite books, but never understood how he could actually talk about Jeffrey Dahmer, Marilyn Manson. How is he talking about all these people when he's back in the 30s or something, So he's just he's in a sense he's like a soothsayer, but ultimately what he is a scribe for Lucifer, or he's a scribe for the legions. And he, just like every religion has ever came about, they've always ascribed a scribe, to write the Bible, the Book of Job, all the Bibles. Who wrote those were no omnipotent beings that wrote these books. They were men, aka scribes. So Gregory, in a sense, is a scribe, and he is in the process. He's a scribe born and fated through his bloodline to tell of the end of days. And the roller coaster ride I take you on is really gonna shake you up. It starts off really slow because it is the first book of a trilogy. It starts off really slow, and most of my reviews say, "Oh, the book starts off really slow," but once you get to the middle of the book, then it just takes off, and then you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together that I was setting up from the beginning of the book, and then you start to get the big picture. But if you see the doll on the cover of the book with those glowing red eyes, you're not going to know anything about that doll until way later in the book. But that doll is very powerful.
Wow.
Pretty much scared the hell out of me too.
It's good when you can scare yourself.
Yeah, dolls are my worst enemy. I hate them, and I love horror movies. I watch horror all my life. I love them. I used to be the kid that never wanted any white on his wall. I needed the Freddy Krueger slasher magazine. I used to take.
Oh, still there, AK?
I think we lost him.
I think we lost him. His sound had been cutting in and out a little bit there, but sounds like he may have cut out.
Hello?
There he is.
Hello? Welcome back. Think he's back. Gotta love Skype. What does it Clarissa would say in a time like this? It's not a true Periscope uncensored without some sort of technical glitch.
Very true. My first day was a technical glitch.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hello. Can you hear us?
I'm sorry, I kind of dropped off.
Yeah, I think Skype's acting up. Gotta love technology.
Gotta love it. Yeah, but with me being under the weather like this, I swear I feel like I'm rambling. So forgive me, and forgive me, your audience and everything.
Oh, it's okay. You haven't been rambling. You were telling us about the possession, and led me to wonder: have you experienced any paranormal stuff yourself? Have you had any personal experiences which helped aid into the book, or?
No personal experience to help aid into the book, except the fact that I'm an avid horror fan. Seen everything, even love the B movies. You know, the little crazy B movies where you got all the weirdest horror stuff you could ever see. Even a cheesy movie known as The Leprechaun. Remember those movies?
Oh yes,
yeah.
I do.
The first one was okay, but then they just started getting more and more cheesy. It was cool, but also the first Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nope, I think he cut out again.
Yeah, he's probably on a Wi-Fi connection.
So, what we'll do is we will jump to our top of the hour commercial just a little early so we can make sure we get the technical glitches taken care of. And when we return, hopefully we'll have Skype working back for us. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network. When we come back, hopefully we'll have AK on the line still and things will go smoothly. All right, welcome back to Periscope Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network. 6 minutes after the hour. Sorry about that, folks. We had some technical difficulties. Skype decided it didn't want to cooperate with us, so we were able to bring AK back on a landline or cell phone.
Somebody doesn't want you talking to Mr. Kuykendall.
I know. We get this all the time, it seems like, lately.
What is it with Puckwudgie guests in Florida and dropping calls?
Maybe it's the Puckwudgie who doesn't want us to
have
talk
you
to
noticed this with guests that any of the shows have in Florida and us having major issues trying to get in contact with them?
Yeah, it's because we had it with past guests where we couldn't get a hold of one of the guests for about a half hour, and he said his phone never rang, but we got a lot of activity on our end.
I said, dealing with anybody in Florida or Arizona, and depending on the subject matter, you got to watch out for that.
Oh yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go right ahead.
Well, this is I actually thought of this. The last time we had AK on the Wednesday show, I actually thought of this. And what I wanted to ask you is, we all know what the general reaction to Conspirators Odyssey is just as a book itself, because the book is a very, very good read just on its own. What has been the reaction to people who can kind of read into it and can kind of see the explanations you're coming up with leading to Roswell? Because I know I've had a couple of people read the book already, a couple of my friends, and they could see it, and the reactions are kind of mixed. You know, they can see, yeah, I can see where that is very true, but then the other said, I don't see how Kennedy could possibly be linked to Roswell. I was wondering what kind of reactions you've gotten to it.
I get the same kind of reactions. If they're mixed, and that's in a sense that's the exact reaction that I've wanted when I started producing the book. That's exactly what I wanted. That means people are piqued, their minds are piqued to the idea that the why behind Kennedy's assassination. Because remember, for over 50, 60 years, we've been focused on everyone. Our government has all, we the people, focused on the who, what, when, where, and how behind the assassination of John F. Kennedy. But not one damn person has ever focused heavily on the why. And it's the why is where my discovery came into play. And why had to do with the 1947 Roswell UFO crash incident. And when they were in the clandestine military experiments that took place on the back end of the 1947 Roswell UFO incident, that started to play around with the genome of the extraterrestrials that were recovered. And they used that material, that research, in order to try to devise a superhuman soldier. And when in the process of a superhuman soldier, when you're dealing with anything that has to do with science, what animal testing tells scientists but so much. You have to test it out at one time or the other, right? So the only reason, the link that I make, the very real link that I make between the 1947 Roswell UFO crash incident and John King's assassination is the war in Vietnam. Well, it wasn't a war because it was never voted to be a war by Congress or the Senate. It was pretty much a conflict, a color conflict, just to be politically correct. Basically, Kennedy was in the way of that war, and that war was what I consider to be a grand science experiment. They injected hundreds of thousands of our men, our soldiers, with a beta version of their concocted super soldier serum. Vietnam was just a place that they could test out on a main stage this weapon, this new thing that they're trying to develop. You can't just test it out and do some tests in an underground basement or something like that. You want to test this out in the field. You need real-time data. Kennedy was just in the way of that data, and he was taken out. Hello?
No, I'm here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
So
but I have gotten those same mixed messages. But Kennedy's assassination and the why, that's only a tip of the iceberg. Kennedy's assassination is just the tip of the iceberg, and my method on grabbing the mentality or grabbing people's attention was to explore Kennedy's assassination. Mm-hmm. But it's bigger than that. It's much bigger than that. And that's why my next book, Origins, will explore how big it is. And how big it is it goes back way before 1947. It goes back to 1917.
Now, Origins goes all the way back. Origins goes back, of course, to the Red Baron and basically World War I.
Exactly.
Does it also, has your research showed that it also comes forward in time? I mean, could it be... could there be cause in I don't know
something happening today?
No, well. Does it have causality in other events like the death of John Lennon or the attempted assassination of President Reagan or Gulf War syndrome even? Has your research showed that it's even present day still here and they're still trying to get this serum?
Yes. Okay. Oh my goodness. I start rambling when I get real passionate about this because you're starting to touch on these certain things. I wouldn't say about the John Lennon. I can explore those avenues, but I don't. There's so much in this world to explore that it pretty much we don't have enough lives or breath enough in enough life in our lifetime to even explore all of them. But when it comes down to Reagan, the attempted assassination of Reagan by Hinckley was actually in The Evolution of the Patron Saint. I explored that in The Evolution of the Patron Saint. And I told you what they were doing and why they were doing it.
Oh, right.
Also, 9/11 is explored in The Evolution of the Patron Saint, Book 1. So, of course, I can explore and touch on everything because I believe that most conspiracies out there that we all explore and think about and talk about, I believe they're all connected in some way, shape, or form. But that's neither here nor there. But yes, I do explore certain things. But I've had to make the connections between the most prevalent, the ones that we have not gotten any kind of answers to in any way, shape, or form. When 1917, I don't stay in 1917. That'd be crazy. I'm not there. I'm a historian, but I'm not writing a boring book. I write a book that's appealing to today's youth and young Americans or young people or young humans, and I want to hold on to your attention. So I connect the dots between the 1917 March 13th, 1917 shoot down of a UFO over Western France by the Red Baron, or Richthofen, better known as the Red Baron. What took place between the clandestine connection between Germany and American, because if we know our history, America and Germany were part of the same coalition in World War I. But certain factions in Germany broke away, and that's where they became an enemy of America in the work up to World War II. So it wasn't always that we were against Germany. We were actually a partner with Germany. And, but that partnership, even though we were at war with them as well, certain factions in collaboration with the United States of America were continuing certain experiments and certain things that were going on. And I go into certain, understandings of the way that the Germans did, experiments on the Jewish people. Those experiments also had something to do with the 1947, crash, because the beings that they recovered in 1917, they were experimenting with those beings in Germany under the watchful eye of the United States of America. The United States of America at that time did not want to do these experiments on our shores and on our lands. So they were doing them in Germany. And this is I'm gonna put two and two things together and just hear me out. We all know about Captain America, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Captain America is the super soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Who's Captain America's arch nemesis, arch enemy?
Crap, what's his name? Red Skull?
The Red Skull. Red Skull came from what country?
Germany.
Basically, I can tell you that Eisenhower is the one that actually told the writer, I forgot the writer's name that created, the inventor or creator of Captain America. Eisenhower is a strategist. If you just know your history, Eisenhower is a strategist. So I don't want to go on, I'm getting all over the place. Okay, back to 1917. Basically, they were experimenting with the genetics of the extraterrestrial beings that they recovered after that shoot down of a UFO in the skies over Western France, in Germany, in 1917. And, throughout World War II. And they were experimenting on Jews. They were experimenting. You ever seen the leaked photographs of Jews and the kids, and they had these bulbous heads, and they were doing all these kind of experiments with these kids, just heinous things that they were doing. Basically, what they were doing was creating monsters. They're trying to create something different. They're trying to create something like a super soldier or something different, something that could benefit, a war footing or a new weapon, but they were just creating monsters. Eisenhower, knowing this concept, and where these extraterrestrials came from, basically Red Skull was an enemy of what we were going to be working on in the future. We brought those extraterrestrials, four of those beings that they captured after they shot that UFO. Brought four of those beings, and they were housed at a subbasement in the U.S. Capitol building, if you can believe it. Mm-hmm. And then Eisenhower became aware of these four beings in 1939 when he was Lieutenant Colonel Eisenhower. In 1939, both Roosevelt and then Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State Cordell Hull actually exposed him to these alien beings that were in these large alien beings that were in large tubes of formaldehyde. That's the first time Eisenhower knew anything about the extraterrestrial experience or extraterrestrials. But his job was not done. He was actually brought in by Cordell Hull and Roosevelt for a specific mission based on his strategic mind. And then, if any of you and your audience think I'm a crackpot, think about the connections here. Answer me a question. If you look at the history of the evolution of Eisenhower's career, have you ever seen a military officer excel in a rank at the rate of speed Eisenhower did?
No.
Not one officer has ever excelled in speed at the rate that Eisenhower did.
Right.
My book alludes to the fact. My book tells you, in a sense, it alludes to the fact of the reasons why he was bumped up in rank so fast.
Right, Eisenhower.
Because even in 1952, in November 1952, he became President of the United States. 5-star general. He was 5-star general, one of a handful before that. I mean, this stuff happened. I'm talking about he would go from 1 star to 2 stars within months. That's impossible.
Well, you can even go. I mean, you could even look at it different than that. I mean, you're talking 1939. He went from being a lieutenant colonel to 1945 being general of the armies.
Exactly.
And that's
remember,
that's a very short time.
General of the army. Exactly. You can do it. I have it down. If you go to my website and you click on the synopsis for Origins, I detail the story straight down the line. And then at the end of it, I have 2 video clips that takes you to the real things that actually happened. But I tell you what is happening behind the scenes, which no American knows. You don't know about the UFO treaty. You don't know that Eisenhower was the one that put that treaty together. You don't know that the Eisenhower is was a spokesman for the entire human race. It was Eisenhower who put that intergalactic treaty together, and he did that with the Allied, the Gray Alien. We call it the Gray Alien Alliance, but it was actually. Sorry about that noise. I'm outside.
It's okay.
It's basically it deals with the Gray Alien Alliance to get a better perspective, because I'm bouncing around the place because I'm just trying to give you all the truths that I can give you that gets you and your audience to if you got the true truth seekers, to put those pieces of the puzzle together.
Wow.
Because I just bounced around all over the place, because in 1939 is when Eisenhower was introduced, and he was given a mission by Roosevelt and Cordell Hull, the Secretary of State, Cordell Hull. And he was supposed to be the spokesman for the human race. But everything took place in 1917.
Why was
Eisenhower? We were about to be annihilated by an extraterrestrial, the Great Alien Alliance. The Galactic Great Alien Alliance. We were supposed to be annihilated twice, actually once, really. But the first time it was going to send a message, because they believed that we had someone very important to their bloodline, to their galactic family. We had someone, and we did. They were in the sub-basement of the U.S. Capitol building. Mm-hmm. We had them, and we had them since 1917. But of course, no military installation ever wants to give back things that that can help them learn more about what could possibly be a great threat to the human race. We don't do that.
Was this something that Roosevelt? That I think Roosevelt was president at that time. Was was this something Roosevelt? I'm talking Franklin Roosevelt knew everything about, or was this something that Eisenhower and these gray aliens kind of kept away from the president?
No, this is what Roosevelt knew. Roosevelt knew this about this because Roosevelt came into office. Remember, Roosevelt was the longest serving United States president ever.
Right.
In history. He was the longest serving. He was the longest serving because he felt that he had to protect, in a sense, guard we the people, or the human race, when it comes down to this extraterrestrial life. And he, of course, knew about the gray aliens, because they were in for years on end. They were at the sub-basement. They created a very technical. It was a very technological new division known as a sub-basement of the U.S. Capitol building, and you really can't get there's no real access to the sub-basement. Basically, that thing was built, under the shroud of secrecy in the sub-basement of the U.S. Capitol building, and there lied those 4 gray alien beings in tubes of formaldehyde. And ever since they came in from, because remember, at that time, and nobody had no way of, understanding what these things were. They didn't, come up with these new installations in Dulce, New Mexico, and Area 51s and all this other kind of stuff. They didn't do that stuff, not when it comes down to UFOs and extraterrestrials. This stuff was all new, and this stuff started to be built when Roosevelt was in office, and he wanted to see it all through. I also can tell you that that Roosevelt was actually killed. He was actually murdered by the Great Alien Alliance.
He was murdered?
He was murdered by the Great Alien Alliance. Remember, he passed away suddenly, remember? And that's when Truman took over, right?
Yeah.
Truman's big experience came in 1947. And if you know your history, Truman, the day that Roosevelt died, Truman was summoned to the White House Oval Office. He was summoned to the White House Oval Office by a signal marker only used by the United States president. So he rushed to the White House and to the Oval Office because he thought the president had summoned his vice president, right? His third vice president, which is Truman. And all the time that he's been there, his third vice president. So when Truman got there, it wasn't Roosevelt. It was actually Eleanor Roosevelt, Roosevelt's wife. And that's when Truman found out that the president of the United States was dead and that he was the new president. But the only reason Eleanor used Roosevelt's private signal marker is only because Roosevelt needed Truman to have a letter, a handwritten letter, that was supposed to be put in directly in Truman's hands. And Eleanor Roosevelt was the person that had to do it. And that letter told him that he was murdered.
Wow.
You better go to break, Doug, because he just opened a whole new row of questions right there.
Oh, definitely. So what we're going to do
okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, what we're going to do, we're going to go to the bottom of the hour break, and when we come back, we will have more with AK, and we'll find out more about this murder and information that is new to me and probably new to a lot of our listeners out there. You're listening to Periscope Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network, and we will be back with more from A.K. Kuykendall. Welcome back to Periscope Uncensored here on the Hazy Radio Network. We're 32 minutes past the hour, and we are having a fantastic talk tonight with A.K. Kuykendall. He dropped a major bomb on us just before we went to break that we wanted everybody to sit and think about for a moment. I, of course, am the host tonight, Doug Engler, and joining me, as always, is Mr. Carl Waits. Welcome back, Carl.
Thank you, Doug. Welcome back, everybody.
And, of course, on the line, fantastic author and somebody who really makes you think when you talk with him, Mr. A.K. Kuykendall.
Hello, guys. Hello.
Hello. Welcome back.
Yes, welcome back.
Now, you were talking about how Dwight Eisenhower was kind of the communicator with the Gray Alliance of aliens. Is there anybody who has taken over that role now?
Now, that's where I have to disappoint you because I would not know. Everything cut off after Eisenhower's meeting that actually leaked. His meeting with the extraterrestrials that actually leaked at the Hammond Air Force Base. It was a Hammond Air Force Base. If anybody can Google Hammond or Hammond Air Force Base, it was a leaked meeting that Eisenhower had with the Greys. That's the only meeting you've ever heard of Eisenhower with meeting extraterrestrials. It's just someone's hot, theory, but it was leaked, and he met someone at Hammond. I can tell you that on that day, the beings that we had since 1917 that the Galactic Gray Alien Alliance was searching for all these years, for over 80-something years, they've been searching for, we had, and Eisenhower made it a pledge to get them back to their people. And I tell you right now, Eisenhower was a grand strategist. I believe Eisenhower was the one that actually coordinated the armada, the extraterrestrial armada that swarmed Washington. I tell you that Eisenhower actually perpetrated that in 1952, even though he was running for president of the United States, which he became in November of 1952.
Wow.
It was called the merry-go-round because basically we had royalty from the Gray Alien Alliance. Now, this is my theory because we had someone important. That's the reason why my theory is there. We had someone important from their species, and we had them since unexpectedly their craft was shot out of the sky in 1917 in the skies over the skies of Western France by the Red Baron. But we had these beings with us, but they were important. They were very important. So I look at it as being maybe royalty. So that's what I morph whatever importance they are into something known as royalty. That's just my angle on it. But they had someone important. Eisenhower, being a true officer, a true, soldier, basically had to divulge his information that he knew that the aliens told them during his communications with them because he was the spokesman for the human race. So he got the treaty together. The treaty was signed between the extraterrestrial race and the human race. That was that treaty. Everybody, if you Google it, you know that there was a treaty that happened sometime. I'm telling you that Eisenhower created that treaty. He invented that treaty. He put it together. And but the Great Alien Alliance, the only reason they wanted to do that treaty is, technology, as well as you have to realize that the planet Earth, I don't want to scare anybody, but it's the truth. We are nothing. This is nothing but it's like the planet Earth to these extraterrestrial beings. It's like looking at grazing cattle or chickens. And what do we do with cows and what do we do with chickens? We consume them.
Yep.
So if, we are food in a sense for certain species out there. It could be the Greys or could not be the Greys. It could be the reptilians. It could be, we just don't know. But basically we are food. But when it comes up to the Gray Alien Alliance, my story or my story, hypothesis, i.e. theory, has to do with we had something that's someone very important to them. Eisenhower was entirely very close because of his mission. His mission was to become one, was to, become close to this extraterrestrial, the Gray Alien Alliance, the Gray race. And that's why he created the treaty. And he was the only one the Greys would talk to in any finite fashion. He was the go-to person. So basically, before that, Eisenhower didn't know that, but before that, the Greys were talking to Roosevelt. The Greys talked to other individuals, but mainly Roosevelt. And they asked Roosevelt flat out, we've been looking for in 1939, around 1939, between the 1930s, between 1930 and 1939, or the 1920s. The Gray Alien Alliance asked Roosevelt flatly, we've been looking for someone for over 25 years. At that time, it was around close to 17 years or 15 years or 20 years. We've been looking for our people. And that will put the piece of the puzzle together between all these UFO sightings that we see all over the planet. That just answers that question about all these sightings we keep seeing. What in the hell are they out there for? What are they doing? They're looking for someone. So that's just a theory. Now, but Roosevelt said, even though he knew since 1917 he's had these beings, he knows what these beings are, and they're in the U.S. Capitol building. Roosevelt said, no, we have no idea what you're talking about. So they went ahead in 1939. They made a deal. In 1939, they were going to get a spokesman. Roosevelt in clandestine talks, because the nations or the peoples of the world could not know that certain heads of state are talking, like presidents with rogue nations and stuff like that. But each rogue nation usually has a leader. So you have to talk to these statesmen, because if there was ever an invasion, we would all have to group together as a human race and fight this invasion, right? So basically, this is where that clandestine meetings come in at. But Roosevelt, in a sense, persuaded the entire, all the heads of state in all the world to allow him to choose a spokesman for the human race. So in 1939, he chose Eisenhower.
Did you research?
And Eisenhower was just a lieutenant colonel at that time. Eisenhower. And the reason why he chose Eisenhower is primarily because of he wrote something very big that had to do with the summation of World War I. So with the process of, I know I'm kind of rambling, I might be losing people, but listen. But in 1939, so he already told that lie. So they signed the Great Indian Alliance, signed a treaty. Eisenhower did his job. Eisenhower was covertly praised by every head of state on the planet. He was covertly praised. Covertly, because basically no one knew about it. He was covertly praised by every head of state. But that was in 1939. But in 1942, after the Great Alien Alliance made a connection and found that the United States government was in cahoots with the German government at the time of 1917, at the time that the craft that they were looking for was shot out of the sky. And they believed that for two reasons, they believed that we had their people. These very important people. Two reasons. First reason was that about that connection that they had between 1917 and now, and the fact that the Americans said that the president and Americans said that they wanted to be the spokesman for the human race. Those two things coupled together made the Great Alien Galactic Alliance believe that we had those important people that they've been seeking at that time for 25 years at that time. So therefore, in 1942, they made a threat over closed wires. They made a threat, and they said that they were going to destroy one of our American cities. They were going to destroy one of our American cities unless you release who they were seeking, who they sought. They were going to destroy American City, and guess what that American city was? It was Los Angeles.
Oh.
And that's where that real event that took place in 1942, known as the Battle of Los Angeles. Remember when the fog lights were shot up in the sky, and it was a huge item in the sky, and then for over an hour and a half, they shot mortar rounds and anti-aircraft artillery at this thing in the air. They just kept shooting and shooting and shooting, even though they were doing it over a heavily populated area. A heavily populated city. They were shooting and shooting and shooting, and they couldn't bring this thing down. I'm telling you, my story puts the pieces of the puzzle together between that first threat by an extraterrestrial race. Remember, after they shot all those for over an hour and a half, they kept shooting all this artillery into the sky at this thing. It wasn't just this huge thing in the sky, this huge UFO in the sky. It was actually other ships. It was actually an armada. An armada was in the night sky. It was early in the morning. It was early in the morning in 1942. Early in the morning in 1942. Because it started on the 25th. It started on the 25th when it was an armada sent in from the Great Alien Alliance. A armada was sent in. They were triggering all kinds of flares. All the military was on the ready. They didn't know which city was going to be destroyed. So pretty much they waited and waited and waited, but then everything calmed down. But in the early morning, around 2:30 something in the morning on the 26th of 1942, basically that's when that possible destroying of Los Angeles was about to happen. And that's why that incident took place. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this was a real incident. It actually happened. So I tell you again, truth is stranger than fiction. Truth is stranger than fiction. But Eisenhower was handling business in 1942, dealing with World War II. He was wearing many hats in World War II. He was dealing with the Allied forces. But he was given a call directly after that threat came over the wire. He was given a call directly to a direct call by Roosevelt. Roosevelt said, "You need to get in contact with these beings. You need to let them know that we don't have who they're looking for. That we don't have who they're looking for." He needed to do his little tongue game, his little game that he does, or whatever Eisenhower's tricks that he does to get these individuals to listen to him, because Eisenhower was good at getting these beings to listen to him. And basically, they were going to destroy Los Angeles. But they didn't. They eventually left because they did not shoot down one plane of ours. They did not destroy the city. They just vanished. And that day has been a mystery ever since 1942. So all you got to do is Google it. 1942, Battle of Los Angeles. And you'll see, ladies and gentlemen, that it's a real event. But they disappeared. Eisenhower did get in contact with these extraterrestrials. Eisenhower did calm the waters. And then Eisenhower also said that I will do everything in my power to make sure you find, or to help you find who it is that you're seeking. And that's where 1952 comes in. Because 1952, these extraterrestrials were going to destroy the planet. They were going to, not destroy the planet, they were going to annihilate us. And they were going to start off by making an example of Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. was going to be destroyed first, and then their brigades were going to move across the entire planet, wiping out all cities, wiping out all people.
Wow. Now, I was wondering if your research, now was Roosevelt able to communicate with them like we're communicating now, or did the Grand Alliance understand the language, or did they have to work through a moderator, or?
I don't explore the communication, except that I do know that telepathy is the primary trademark of the Gray Alien Alliance, of the Gray Aliens. It's telepathy. They don't use their mouth. It's telepathy, okay. Or they use our technology. They communicate through our technology, as in the wires, radio, words, things like that. They use our technology and they throw it back at us. They throw our technology back at us because that's what we can understand. That's why when that threat came over the wire, it came over clear English. They were going to destroy one of your American cities if you do not release. Now again, go to www-thewriterofbooks.com and you go to list of works or list of books, and you'll see on the side where it shows the synopsis for each of my books that's out. So the synopsis at the top says synopsis, and in brackets it says origins. Click on that and then read from the top down to the bottom, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. You'll see how I approach this story and how very real and very true it is. Now, if anybody's out there, I'm sure you guys have already typed into Google 1942, Battle of Los Angeles. I know you've done it, so you know I'm on to something here. And then you type in 1952, Washington merry-go-round, UFOs, and you'll see I'm on to something very real there. But in Hammond, it was in 1955. See, Eisenhower was already president in 1952, November 1952 exact, when that whole thing happened, when that imminent alien invasion of 1952 was about to take place. He was already, after that was over with, and everybody, all the extraterrestrials, they disappeared. November 1952, Eisenhower became president. But in 1955, Eisenhower, it was a leak. It was someone leaked the fact that Eisenhower met with UFOs or met with extraterrestrials. That was leaked. Eisenhower met with UFOs in 1955. Google that, ladies and gentlemen. Google that, and you'll see that I'm on to something. And I'm telling you what happened. But there's one thing that you're not going to read when you go to this. Eisenhower actually made good on his promise and delivered the who they would seek. They've been seeking, and at that time in 1952 and 1955, it had been more than 80. It had been more than 80 years that they've been looking for their people, these important people in their ranks, for over 80-something years. And Eisenhower made good on his promise. And that meeting that was leaked, that's when those beings went back to their homeland. And Eisenhower actually, I have to tell you that Eisenhower, to me, he's actually our Captain America. He saved this planet 3 times. 1942, 1952, and of course, after he delivered the beings that they were looking for over 80 plus years, basically he prevented another large-scale imminent invasion. Because have you ever heard of any other invasion of that kind? Mass sightings, fleets, or any of things in the sky that's so obvious. You ever heard of anything else other than 1942 and 1952? Ever since 1952, you've never heard of anything else like that before. Eisenhower is your Captain America. Eisenhower is your Captain America.
This has been absolutely fantastic tonight, AK. We thank you for coming on. We're coming towards the last 5 minutes of the show, so I want to give you the floor to promote your books, any appearances you have coming up, anywhere you're going to be, signings. So the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I have some stuff going on here, and I kind of fought through this interview here. So I'm in Florida. I'm on the last end of my tour, but those tours are for certain academics and things like that, so it's not open to the public. So that's neither here nor there. You can find out anything you need to know about me, my writings, what I'm working on by going to my website. Again, it's www-thewriterofbooks.com. Once again, it's www-thewriterofbooks.com. And my website is aptly known as the site where truth reads through fiction. And I dare you to read my work and tell me if the name of my website is not appropriate. The site where truth reads through fiction, www-thewriterofbooks.com. I look forward to hearing your thoughts after you read my work, or just hearing your thoughts just off of whatever article you might hear from me around the world. Thank you for having me, and I hope I got you thinking.
Oh, definitely got us thinking tonight. As always, it was fantastic, and don't be a stranger to the network. You're welcome back. I know Clarissa would love to have you back. I know she's mad because things came up and she wasn't able to be here tonight, but I know she'd love to have you back on Periscope, and we want to have you back on Crossing the Void as well. So, anytime. Good luck with all of your future endeavors, and keep researching, and we'll keep reading.
Yes, thank you very much.
Outstanding. No problem. Take care, guys.
Have a good night.
You too.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was a-k-kuykendall. We really want to thank him for coming on tonight. We know he was feeling a little under the weather. Carl, you were pretty quiet during the show. He had you thinking a lot, huh?
This is my first experience with him, and that's gets you thinking way out of the box.
Just give you a little idea of what he was talking about, because I wanted to know, like, how fast did Eisenhower go through the ranks, and this is something kind of, you just kind of look at this as interesting. Basically, he was a major and went to a lieutenant colonel in 16 years. Okay, it was 16 years that he got through, that he was promoted to lieutenant colonel. He was a major in 1920. He was promoted to lieutenant colonel in 1936. Now, this is where it gets crazy. He was promoted to a colonel in less than a year, March 11th, 1941. From being promoted to a colonel, he rose to major general by March 27th, 1942. From major general From Major General, he was a 4-star general. From being a Major General, that's 2 stars, to becoming General, that's 4 stars, by February 11th, 1943. That's less than a year. Then he was, from February 11th, 1943, he was a 5-star general by December 20th, 1944.
Wow.
And in 1946, 3 years later, that rank was made permanent. So you're talking he went from a colonel to a 5-star general in basically 3 years. He jumped 6 ranks.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Or 5,
Yeah.
5 ranks. No, I was right the first time. 6 ranks in 3 years. He jumped 6 ranks in 3 years.
I don't think anybody else has ever come close to that.
But it's you know, I mean, yeah, there have been people who have gone from, you know, probably a lieutenant. I could see people during the war, you know, during World War II, going from a lieutenant to, you know, Dick. Let's think like of like a person I can think of, for an example. Let's think of Richard Winters. Richard Winters, of course, was spotlighted in Band of Brothers. He led Easy Company. He went from, basically in a couple years, he went from a lieutenant. There you saw him from a lieutenant to a major. Which was, you know, he ended his career as a lieutenant colonel. But he went from a lieutenant to a major in basically 4 years. 3-4 years, give or take. Eisenhower went from a colonel to general of the army in 3 years.
Yeah, no way.
During basically almost the same time. Almost the same time frame.
Yeah, things just don't add up there.
No.
That kind of a jump.
Yeah, how
Especially
did
that rank though? It's not even so much.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this isn't talking like lieutenants and platoon commanders and stuff, because yeah, during World War II they rose in rank quick. You know, especially if they were, you know, they were, you know, they were in a lot of conflicts. So you could raise in rank quick. But to go from those ranks, you know, you're talking generals, you know. Yeah, you know, you're talking generals now. I mean, and there were generals at that point in time. I mean, MacArthur, Patton, all these. He jumped 6 ranks, colonel to a 5-star general in it's less than 3 years.
Not in this lifetime. From
July 1st, 1946, when he was March 11th, 1941, just before Pearl Harbor, when he was a colonel, to December 20th, 1944, when he was promoted to General of the Army.
That's crazy.
Think about that.
Oh, definitely. But we are just about out of time here on Periscope Uncensored. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in, everybody in the chat room. We love hearing you guys. You had some great conversations going on. We couldn't throw it out there much tonight, but we do appreciate everybody listening in. Tune in next week when, here on Periscope Uncensored, we have Rob Demrest from Ghost Hunters International.
Yeehaw.
Crossing the Void, our guest this week coming up is Angus Constant. Scott, what's he talking about again? I didn't write that down in my notes.
We be talking about pirates, you scallywag.
That's right. I know. You just love doing that voice, don't you?
Way to mainsail, arr.
On Animazing Radio on Sunday night, we're going to have artist Sean Doonan on. And we're talking about a lot of his artwork. That show will be on from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Crossing the Void is on Wednesday nights from 8 p.m. to midnight Eastern. And, of course, Periscope Uncensored every Friday here on Hazy Radio Network from 10 to midnight Eastern. So we want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you again to a-k-kuykendall for joining us, even though he's feeling a little under the weather. But we still appreciate that he took the time out to come hang with us and make us think.
Yes, thanks, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we will talk with you again soon.
Periscope Uncensored is a subsidiary of Pukwudgie Media in association with the Hazy Radio Network.
Pukwudgie.